Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's the end of a very busy day in spaceflight. We have a good one for you tonight. The Intuitive Machines IM-1 Nova C mission to the moon. So this is aboard a SpaceX Falcon 9, and it'll be taking the first in NASA's hopefully long line of commercial payloads to the moon. So we'll get into it. We'll look at the launch profile, then we'll go back to IM, and we'll look at their kind of promo video for it, and then we'll catch up with NASA, who is currently broadcasting the launch sequence. We're at T-minus 25 minutes. Everything looks to be going well, and the rocket is standing tall. So SpaceX is targeting it today, Thursday, February 15th, for a Falcon 9 launch of the Intuitive Machines IM-1 mission to the Lunar transfer orbit from LC-39A, or Launch Complex 39A, which has some historical significance. It was the Apollo mission launch pad. It's one that SpaceX won the bid for and won the contract for, and it became famous for the Apollo missions. So it's almost fitting that they are taking the commercial payload back to the moon that will be on the same launch pad that took astronauts to the moon for the Apollo program. The instantaneous launch window opens at 1:05 Eastern, so about 24 minutes. Instantaneous launch windows are specific inclinations they have to hit to continue the orbital mission to be able to get to the moon on the Delta V requirements that they have. So for something like that to take place, they need to be able to get out to space, go around, and it has to be an instantaneous launch. So there's no margin, there's no push, there's no window. It's go at 1:05 or not at all. Feel sorry for anyone trying to sleep in Titusville. Yeah. I'd trade it though. Night launches are a lot of fun to watch in person. Last time I was there, I got to see a night launch, and they're always fun. So approximately 2.5 hours prior to liftoff, teams will begin loading the lunar lander with cryogenic methane and oxygen on the pad ahead of stepping into propellant load for Falcon 9. So that's important. You have to get it. You have to load it in enough time where you're not going to get boil off. You're not going to lose a lot, but you can still encapsulate and get it to the launch. So it's a delicate balance. You want to get that right. This is the 18th flight for the first stage booster supporting this mission, which previously launched GPS-3, Turksat 5A, Transporter 2, and Telesat G33 / G34, Transporter 6, and 12 Starlink missions. Following stage separation, the first stage will land on LZ-1 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in sunny Florida. So LZ-1 is back on land. So it's going to come back and land back on land again, just like the mission we saw earlier. Pretty much same as we've seen before many times. T-minus 38. Go for prop load. We're well within that. RP1 and first stage liquid oxygen loading begins. And that's where we're at sitting right now, somewhere between that and the second stage LOX loading beginning. T-minus 7 engine chill, T-minus 1 command flight computer to gain final pre-launch checks, and propellant tank pressurization to flight pressure. T-minus 45 seconds, SpaceX launch director verifies go for launch. T-minus 3 engine control commands ignition sequence to start. zeros, we get liftoff. So, same mission profile that we saw earlier. Ascent, quick right turn, of that flip. It will enter and land on LZ1. And then it will continue on with the payload, fairing separation, and continue out. This looks the same as normal, a little bit condensed. So T plus 1 minute 12 seconds is max Q. T plus 2 minutes and 14 seconds is MECO. 3 seconds later, we have stage SEP. Then we'll get that second engine start and the boost back burn. So those will all be within about 10 seconds, 15 seconds, happening pretty quick. We have fairing deployment at T plus 3 minutes and 6 seconds. Boost back ends a little bit after that. And then we get going into all these other IM-1 deploys for the moon at T plus 48 minutes and 24 seconds. So that's what we got coming up there. So next we'll watch a video about the IM-1 mission from Intuitive Machines, the IM and the IM-1.
We are mechanics, pouring our heart, mind, and soul into creating the means to reach for something we once held long ago. Infinite possibilities come to those who believe. Our time is now.
All Nova controllers, go, no go for launch.
Flight manager, go.
Spark, go. Payloads, go. Ground network, go.
Com, go.
Traj, go.
Fido, go.
Prop, go.
AD is go.
Nova control is go for launch.
And LV-SEP is complete.
Copy.
Transmit enabled.
Attitude control enabled.
Tracking in progress.
Solar charge active.
AD is go.
Transition to mode 202, prep for CM. Maneuvering to burn attitude. Rumble, settling. Ignition. Copy. Main engine shutdown. Good burn. Transition to mode 204, HGA attitude pointing.
Approaching loss of signal and lunar orbit insertion. Acquisition of signal and lunar orbit insertion complete.
HDA scanning in progress. Safe sites found.
Prepare for landing.
Somewhat, Linda. Somewhat. So that is the profile from Intuitive Machines. This was supposed to be an even bigger day for spaceflight, but it ended a little bit short. So this was the 4 different sites that SpaceX operates. There's 1 rocket, 2 rocket, 3 rocket, 4. So we have Starship at Starbase, Texas. We have Vandenberg Space Force Base, the rocket that did not go. This is the USSF 124, and this is the one we're looking at today. So we had a bunch of spaceflight today, so that's always cool. So we'll switch over and pick up NASA's coverage. We're about 15 minutes to liftoff time.
And liquid oxygen. It's a propulsion system with deep roots to NASA's Project Morpheus. Morpheus was a prototype lander engineers at NASA's Johnson Space Center used to integrate technologies for future spacecraft that could land on a variety of destinations in our solar system. The project integrated NASA's autonomous landing and hazard avoidance technology designed to enable a spacecraft to identify, descend, and find a safe landing site that is relatively flat and free of large boulders, rocks, and craters. In the video on your screen, you can see that signature blue fire synonymous with liquid methane and liquid oxygen engines. That's the same fuel used on Nova C. From December 2013 to
Methylox.
December 2014, Morpheus completed 13 free flight tests at the north end of Kennedy's shuttle and landing facility. And joining me now is our co-founder and chief technology officer, Dr. Tim Crane. Tim, before starting Intuitive Machines with your fellow co-founders, Steve Altimus and Dr. Cam Gafarian, you were working on other things at Johnson Space Center to include Project Morpheus. What can you tell me about Project Morpheus and how that foundings of technology led to us getting to the launch pad today with your company?
Well, one thing I can tell you is I get chills watching that footage because it takes me right back. But this is a journey that clearly our prop technology was a big part of Morpheus we brought forward. Also, the all-hat, the autonomous landing, hazard avoidance task, a lot of our navigation, the way we do software, the way we test our systems, and even the discipline about knowing when some technology needs to wait for a future date so we can get to flight. All of that came from the Morpheus experience.
And, just about a year ago, you got to see those Project Morpheus tanks again, but this time they were in your facility and you were testing them with your company. What can you tell me about speeding up innovation through NASA's Reimbursable Space Act agreement?
Well, NASA really is a national treasure in terms of knowledge and capability, and in some places, equipment. And we had a supply chain issue with some of our tanks, and we needed to get our test rig up and running. And we knew the Morpheus tanks were in surplus, and reached out to NASA, and they facilitated getting those tanks to us so that we could proceed with testing while our flight tanks were coming in.
And real quick, while you have you, why liquid methane? Why liquid oxygen?
Well, in the near term, it's very easy to work with. It's environmentally friendly. It's non-toxic. It's very robust to changing conditions.
Not completely
Down
out
the
of the
road,
question.
it's the
We
exploration
could do it
fuel
sometime.
of the solar system, and we can make it on Mars for bringing spacecraft back from there. So we don't have to take all the fuel with us.
Well, Tim, I know you're burning back to get back into mission control, watching your team that you fostered throughout all these years and listening to that IM-1 mission loop. We do appreciate your time today, and thanks for stopping in.
Thanks, Josh.
NASA instrument on the Nova-C lander for this IM-1 mission is the Lunar Node 1 navigation demonstrator, also called LN1. That's much simpler. It's similar to when you use GPS to get to a destination. Let's take a look at how it works and what it will do to help support future surface and orbital operations.
Lunar Node 1 is meant to be a demonstration of how we can use various navigation technologies to figure out where you are in and around the moon.
I trust
I'm holding in
you.
my hands the Lunar
The other
Node 1
ones I'm
mass
not so
simulator.
sure about.
We use this build to test out our vibrational modes, put on a shake table, and also do fit checks with the lander itself. Inside of our payload, we have multiple electronics boards that fit within this chassis that is a little bit about a half U in size. You can see our external connectors here where we have our data and power to the lander itself. And within here, we have multiple boards that do the power regulation, our data control, our FPGAs, all those kind of electronics pieces are in here, as well as a small S-band radio that attaches up underneath this top radiator in order to distribute this heat, and then to talk to the antenna, which mounts here. This is the same size and build as the flight payload. It's just not covered in MLI or some of the other materials that you'll see on the flight build itself.
Huh, that's neat.
Now, IM-1 is the second launch of a lunar lander under NASA's Commercial Lunar Payload Services Initiative. The first CLPS launch
The other one
was
burned
with
up in the atmosphere.
Pittsburgh-based Astrobotic. The mission was called Peregrine Mission 1. It successfully launched last month on a ULA rocket, but afterwards, Astrobotic reported a failure in its propulsion system, which prevented the spacecraft from landing on the moon. 10 days later, Peregrine burned up after re-entering Earth's atmosphere. An anomaly review board will release its findings to what happened once complete. Join me now to talk about NASA's CLPS initiative and its benefits and risks.
All right, we're gonna go over and CLPS is the commercial lunar something project. CLPS. I forget what it means, but so this is commercial space for lunar endeavors. So we're looking over here at the 45th Space Wing. For the Falcon 9 Intuitive Machines 1 launch tonight. Probability of violating weather constraints is 10%, which is really low. That's a really good sign. Thick cloud layers rule. Weather visibility, no weather, 7 miles of visibility, 59 degrees at 80% humidity. Liftoff winds at 200 feet is 070 at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Clouds scattered stratocumulus at 2,500 feet base and 4,500 foot top. Cirrostratus scattered at 18,000 base and tops of 21,000. Upper level wind shear is low to moderate, so slight risk. You like to see them low. Moderate's not terrible. Booster recovery weather is not applicable because they're landing on LZ1. And the solar activity currently is low for the mission. If they had to delay for whatever reason, I don't think it's 24 hours. I think it's longer than that. But with a 24-hour delay, there's a 20% chance of violating weather constraints for the same issue. So that's what our weather looks like going forward. And we will join NASA back to continue.
And spectrometer, which is actually going to support our in situ resource utilization and support a future
NASA loves the word in situ, just for the record.
Sandra, thank you so much. We're excited to see what CLPS can do.
I think it's
for
their
NASA
favorite rule
and
or
for
favorite
humanity,
word.
really, with what we plan to do with the Artemis program.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Go Falcon 9.
That's right.
And go IM-1.
Perfect. All right, so let's send it back to our friends at SpaceX in Hawthorne, California, as they walk us through the final moments of the countdown, and then I will see you guys after lunch.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Megan. At T-minus just under 7.5 minutes, all systems are currently a go for an on-time liftoff. Next up, in just about a couple minutes, the structure next to the vehicle, known as the strong back, will begin to retract away from the vehicle. But while we wait for that, let's talk about what it takes to actually get to orbit. In order to get the rocket and payload into any orbit, the rocket not only has to go up really fast, but it also has to go sideways. As we ascend, As we ascend, we tilt the engines, and that turns the rocket horizontally. To help demonstrate this concept, an image of firing a cannon from a really high mountain is what you can see there on your screen. The cannonball will arc, and then good old gravity will pull it back down to Earth. As you increase the power, the cannonball will arc and land farther and farther away. Eventually, if you could continue to increase the power, the cannonball will end up in free fall around the Earth. Basically, gravity is pulling down on the cannonball, but it's going so fast that it never hits the ground.
RP1 load is complete.
This arc that
RP1
constantly
load
misses
complete.
the Earth is called in orbit. Falcon 9 effectively does the same thing as the cannon in this example, and it provides enough power and horizontal velocity to the second stage carrying the spacecraft, enabling the spacecraft to be placed into orbit around the Earth. Now, you'll be able to see this today by watching the orientation of Falcon 9 after liftoff. The rocket will go straight up until about T plus 10 seconds, at which point we will begin that shift in orientation, gimbaling the engines so that Falcon 9 can go horizontally really fast. So be sure to look out for that after liftoff. Now, again, at T minus 5 minutes and 38 seconds, all systems are currently go for liftoff. The strong back is going to begin retracting away shortly in preparation for that retraction. The clamp arms, which are located just around the second stage, just below the fairing, will begin to open. Once those are fully open, then the TE or the strong back can begin to recline away from Falcon 9. And you can see that on your screen, those clamp arms just below the fairing there. Now, the vehicle is nearly fully loaded with propellants, and we did hear a call out that stage 1 prop loading has concluded. We are still loading blocks. And there's that call out that we are beginning that process for that strong back retraction. Propellant loading is continuing on the vehicle and will complete at T minus 2 minutes. The range is currently green and ready to support liftoff. And if for some reason we do not launch today, we do have a backup opportunity on Friday, February 16th at 1:12 a.m. Eastern Time.
Okay, so this tomorrow.
Retract in progress.
So again, they have to pressurize those tanks so that they can hold up the weight of the rocket.
Retraction is now in progress, and it will be slow and slight, but we should see those clamp arms begin to open up there. And there you can see it on your screen. Those clamp arms are now opening up. Again, once they are fully open, that will allow the transporter erector, that structure next to the vehicle, to begin to retract away.
I was just wondering where SCAD, maybe I'll shoot her an email at SCAD and Comer, both. I've been saying either one of them.
TE begin to move away, very slow and slight. But at this point in the countdown, both the first and second stages are nearly fully loaded with 1 million pounds of kerosene fuel and liquid oxygen. And there you can see on your screen that TE is now moving away from Falcon 9. Falcon 9 uses 2 propellants, a refined form of kerosene called RP1 or rocket propellant 1 as a fuel, and LOX or liquid oxygen as an oxidizer. Now, fire generally needs 3 elements to ignite.
They are sending this to the
heat,
moon,
fuel,
Linda.
and an
So this
oxidizing
will
agent, which is usually oxygen.
This will go to the
This is
moon.
what's known as the fire triangle. In our case, the liquid oxygen is chilled below its boiling point so that it has a much greater.
Is complete.
So I'll turn that down because I like my commentary better. So yes, this will land on the surface of the moon. So it's going to go to lunar transfer orbit. Then it will orbit the moon. It will search for a suitable landing spot, and then it will land on the surface of the moon. So, and it will be the first commercial payload to do so. So, and that's kind of the significance of this launch site. This is, like I said, 39A. This is where the Apollo missions took place. So why wouldn't our first commercial payload going to the moon launch from this launch pad? So, like we said, we watched I forget what the mission was. The United Launch Alliance, Pigarine. That was supposed to be the first one, the same one that had the ashes and all those different things on it. but had a propulsion issue, and did not make it to where it needed to go, and ultimately burned up in the atmosphere. That was supposed to be the first commercial payload, and that was supposed to be on United Launch Alliance. That mission was not successful, so it does look like a big old long Q-tip. Yes, it does. So we see our puffy stuff. So everything's looking good, looking like we're heading in the right direction. This is also the most decked out launch pad. As you can see, the tower, it's very well built and very SpaceX-y. So that's cool. Tower's to the right there, the black and white tower. So Falcon 9 is in startup, and we're getting flight tank pressurization. The next major call out's in about 10 seconds, and that will be go for launch. So we'll have go, no go poll. And we are go for launch. So everything is proceeding nominally. The Falcon 9 has control of the flight at this point. The tanks are pressurizing. We have a go for launch. We are all green on the range, and we should see an on-time liftoff in about 21 seconds. I didn't realize nuclear that it was going to be that, but that's how it came out. So, go Falcon, go IM-1 to the moon. And ignition and liftoff. And that's why a night launch is beautiful, because you get to see all of the propulsion. You get to see the flame trench, and it looks really, or the flame, and it looks really, really neat. So, it looks a little choppy, but I think that's video. I don't think that's a propulsion issue. So about 30 seconds, we're coming up on that max Q. That's the max aerodynamic pressure on the launch vehicle. So that's where the atmosphere is at its thickest with the speed of the rocket. So that's where the peak mechanical stress is. They actually throttled down the engines, the 9 Merlin engines on the first stage, so they can get through and reduce the stress on the vehicle. And as soon as they punch through, they throttle back up to full capacity. And good call from Max Q. So now we're in flight for a little bit over a minute, and then we'll get those events in succession. We'll get that MECO, we'll get stage step. It will begin the boost back burn to return to Earth to land on landing zone 1. And then we'll get that fairing separation and all that good stuff. So there'll be a lot of events that happen back to back to back to back. Do they have the ability to video the landing? And if they do, we cover it too. The landing on the moon, I don't know if they have video capabilities. If they do, I certainly will. I think IM-1 is scheduled to land. I'm gonna let me get a. I think it's mid-March, but I want to make sure before I say that.
And there we saw and heard those call outs from MECO, stage separation, SES-1, and the boost back burn startup on the first stage. Some great views there. Now the first stage is currently performing its boost back burn. This is where we.
Oh no, they're gonna be relatively quick with it. So I should be able to I should be able to cover it, Linda. I will be. Yeah, I should be able to cover it. I'll probably be back there then. So it will be February 22nd, but they don't know a time until we get all the orbital figured out. So no people on this one. This is not manned at all. It is just the lander that will land on the moon. So it looks like exclusively we're just showing the first stage, which is going to return to Earth. Well, no, that's the second stage. So sorry, I'm looking at telemetry for the first stage. We're looking at the second stage, that Merlin vacuum engine. And it continues to pick up speed. But I will find out if they do have. I know that they'll have telemetry if they don't have video. But I'll find out for sure. And one way or another, we'll cover something with it because I think it's really cool. So basically, what happened is they lit the engines, and it went as quickly as it could back the other way. And now it's kind of drifting back down and towards Cape Canaveral. You can see the speed's picking back up. Because again, we're outside of that atmospheric range, and we're about to see the entry burn. So, and I believe it's about a minute. We'll see it do its traditional entry burn with the 3 Merlin engines on the first stage. I feel like I didn't turn that all around. So we're looking at the second stage. The second stage is at 163 statute kilometers over Earth, and it is going at a blistering speed of 12,500 kilometers per hour at this point. So you can see on that left side, that is our first stage. And that looks like Florida. It looks like lights, doesn't it? So we're coming up on that entry burn. Again, that serves a couple different purposes. One, it thermally coats the engines for the re-entry temperatures. It also slows the vehicle down just a little bit because, as you can see, we're up to about 4,300, 4,400 kilometers per hour on the descent. So those are those cold gas nitrogen thrusters on that first stage, orienting it with the help of the grid fins. We can still see the Florida coast from the lights. We will not see a whole lot on that left side, but those lights until a couple seconds before landing, when that one center Merlin engine fires for the landing burn. Which looks much different than the one a couple hours ago where we could see LZ1, 2, and 3. And now we just kind of see nothing going on there. I think that's LZ1 right underneath of it. That one single light, but maybe not. There's our landing burn start. Should see landing legs deploy here in just a moment. And landing leg deploy. And successful landing. It looked like they were a little bit right of center, but, you know, I mean, we'll let them have it. And we're a little bit slower than usual, 26,688 kilometers per hour for our parking orbit at 164 kilometers above Earth. Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to make sure it was shutting down. I'm like, it still glows. So there'll be several other burns to circularize the orbit. And then there'll be burns to take it to the moon. So very exciting. Great job, SpaceX. Looks like it's perfect, as always. And yeah. So that's going to be it for me this evening. And like I said, February 22nd will be the landing on the moon date. I'll cover it with commentary and telemetry if we have to. If not, I'm hoping that there may be some kind of video, but I'm not entirely sure. So I will look into that. I will get back with you on that portion. But even if we have to watch telemetry, we'll watch telemetry and go through commentary. So until next time, I hope everyone has a good evening. And we have a launch tomorrow too. Time to be determined, but that Vandenberg launch we definitely have tomorrow, and there's one more. Let me check on what the other one is. We have nope, that one's on Friday. So we just have the Group 714 Starlink out of Vandenberg Space Force Base tomorrow. Looks like it's scheduled for 4:34 p.m. Eastern Time as of now. So we'll cover that one live right here. Have a good night, everybody. Hit that like button on your way out. If you're new to the channel, hit subscribe and take care.